What's up, everybody? How's everybody doing today? Did you just see a quick little glimpse of a 58 Chevy? You might have. I'll tell you what's going on with that a little later on. This video, I'm going to reveal a little bit about the van, just give you a little update on that, as well as the majority of the video will be my trials and tribulations finishing up these hammers. So if you've bought one of these from me, thank you very much for your order, and thank you very much for your patience. We are getting there. I'm just hard at it, you know. Every day I'm in here just working, trying to get the hammers better and better, and more consistent to make sure that that we can keep producing these accurately for a long time. So that jig is very important to me, and what has to happen with the jig and how the jig works, that's all the most important stuff. So I'm working on the upper hinge of these hammers. We did the lower jaws on the last one, and now I'm working on the uppers. So all the lower jaws are done for the 24 and the 36-inch hammers. So I'm just working on getting the upper jaws dialed in. Which clamps the actual hammer head is very important and has been a bit of a struggle for me. So that is what this video is all about. And don't forget to like, click subscribe, hit notifications. Thanks a lot for watching Make It Kustom, everybody. Let's get into it. Okay, we're still working on hammers. Elio's here helping me out today. Elio's prepping up all these little pieces. There's so many little processes that have to happen for each hammer. So these guys are not threaded and they're 3/8 hole. These guys will be threaded and they're threaded 4 3/8. What they are is a clamp. This is the little clamp piece that needs to be welded to this tube that has a slot cut in it. Slips on here. And then these pieces, my butterfingers can do it. Yeah, they slip right there and bolt on so that we can weld it right in there. So this is the top side of the hammer. We flipped the jig over. So now what I've got to do is cut all these tubes that have the bend in them so that they fit onto this. And when we're talking about fabricating with tube, that's called coping or notching. So I'm going to notch or cope on the milling machine using a, this is a new bit, I've never used one. It's called an Annular bit. They're kind of pricey, but I tried using a hole saw, and the tin hole saws, which are great, and I've always used them, they're awesome, but they're a little bit weak. So it's funny, if I actually set this thing up perfectly square, you can see that, or perfectly center I should say, that this, as pressure is applied to one side of it, it does sort of bend a little bit and makes for kind of a wonky bend, or a wonky cut I should say. So we ponied up a little bit here since we're manufacturing a bunch of these for the Annular bit. And these are normally used in a mag drill, but they have a shank that is just a 1/2-inch shank. I can use my, my collet on the mill to clamp it. So what we'll do is I will test fit one of these. This is for the 36-inch. And then I'm gonna make a fixture on this mill so that every time I bring a tube in and clamp it in, it's a no-brainer and it's already set up to cut that hole. And these are all the little things in manufacturing that I'm kind of learning and having fun with while we're making these hammers. So as far as efficiency goes, that's what we're talking about when we're manufacturing anything. So making the jigs and the fixtures, like a fixture on the milling machine to hold that bar in the perfect spot so that it gets coped or notched in the perfect spot so that it fits in the jig. All that time spent is worth it when you're talking about doing 25 of them or 50 of them. So we've got 25 of each, or sorry, 30 of one and 20 of the other, 50 total cuts to make right now. And then once those pieces are cut and Elio is done making those clamp pieces, we can just go to town and just nothing but welding. So that's what we're at right now. This will be sort of the last fabrication video with all the hammers. Since the last video we did, they're all done. The lower jaws are all welded up and all finished. This one's all about the upper jaws and getting them done. Okay, so what I've got here is the annular cutter, cutting that, cut it nice and perfect. We built this little fixture for the back. Pretty simple, it's just some 1-inch. These are just offcuts from building the other fixture, so I just want to make something simple as possible that holds the angle of this. The tube sits right in there. It's mostly to clock the degree of this to make sure that it's vertical in relation to the cut with the annular cutter. The other thing that it's going to be really sweet for is that I'm going to be able to clamp it right to the mill bed, and we will be able to line up the end of this cut with the end of this cradle in relation to where the head is, and now we've got repeatability. So I've already test fit this on the jig, and it's just a hair tight. I can force it to be right in there, but it's just a hair tight. So I've got it just a tiny bit more to cut off, and once it's set perfect, I will lock everything in place. Everything will be locked, and then every single one will be able to sit flat in the vise, lined up to there, centered, lined up to here, clamped, with this fixture clamped to the mill bed, and we've got repeatability. So that's solved. Elio's tapping the heads for the clamps right now, and then we will get all these things welded up. Okay, so bring you up to speed. This was the old head fixture on the frame jig for the planishing hammer. I took it off of here because I was trying to do too many things at once. This was a loose fixture that should have been tighter, and the reason it was loose is because I was trying to weld the clamping tabs onto this tube at the same time as I was welding this tube to the rest of the frame, if that makes sense. So now I manufacture this piece separately so that I can actually clamp it directly onto here tight before it gets welded to this tube. Hopefully I'm explaining it all right. Basically, I was doing too many things at once, and I want this weld to happen while this piece is clamped tight, which could not happen without these tabs being welded onto here first and it being bolted to a fixed unit. So yeah, that's what that is. The other thing I wanted to let you guys know that I did here was this piece, I ended up having to slot the holes this way, and I also ground a taper into the bottom of this because the head unit was not aligning perfectly straight. After I built one on here and I checked it to the hammers, and it fit all of them the same, it was slightly off. So I adjusted this by grinding the bottom on a slight taper to bring like half a degree or so over, and it fixed my degree issue. Also, I had an issue where it was not lining up with this axis, so it was like a tiny bit over. I think it was about 60 thou. It was offset. It was nice and vertical because we adjusted for that and it worked, but it needed to be moved over slightly. So I did have to slot these holes on the mill, and that's also why I stepped it down, is my slot was not quite deep enough, so I had to shave a little bit away to expose the slot that was milled in there. So yeah, lots of finicky little things to make sure that these are, you know, how I want them. So I did get through it though. You know, I did get all these pieces done. Some of the ones that did not originally line up perfectly, I had to bolt them back into the jig and heat them up in a spot so that they were normalized or relaxed into the jig position. All the ones that you don't see heat marks on all came out perfect. So I do have to just you know, take the railmate, the Walter railmate to those heat spots to make them all shiny again. But all the 36-inch hammers are now built, they're welded, they're done, they're ready to be packaged basically. I'm waiting on a little bit of hardware to come in the mail. So what's up next is I am about to embark on the 24-inch top halves of the hammer, which will require me to rejig the mill fixture for the coping to happen, and I will have to move this head unit now to this location. Now, I'm going to drill and pin this first. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a couple of 1/8 drill bits and drill some holes directly into here, and that's going to be my alignment for it so that I know that when it goes back on here, it goes in the exact same spot. So that is that. I'm going to get to that now and start setting up for the 24-inch top bars. So right in between here, that's what I want to see, is it touching in the center or very close to it. That is a fight. Because you can see the tiniest amount of misalignment with that is all about where this is. So there is a tiny bit of left and right misalignment there, maybe just a few thou if I, not a few thou, maybe 10 thou if I actually measured it. So I might slot these holes a little bit and just move it over just a touch. But as far as the alignment this way, which is how the die meets the anvil, or the anvil meets the die, the upper anvil meets the lower die, that is bang on, which is awesome. So at least that's done, that head's made. I can slot this a tiny bit and move it over just to get that 10 thou or 15 thou, whatever it ends up being. And all these other tops will get welded up. So we are pretty much got her beat. All the heads, these little clamps, those are all made for the 24, so I can just go ahead and do them. They're all coped out, ready to accept that clamp in the fixture that we just made. So score, we are moving along. We are seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. Some of you may be asking, what is that car doing there? That is my beautiful wife's 58 Chevy Biscayne. Just a quick thing on it, since we're already talking about it. She's had this car for a very long time. She had it years before I met her. This is a 1958 Chevy Biscayne. I did air ride on the rear, fabricated those skirts from scratch. Those are steel skirts that I made. And we gave it a quick paint job, and we are gonna have to do a bit of a repaint for a couple of reasons. The roof didn't turn out right, and there's a scratch on one of the fender skirts there on the other side. So we got a little bit of work to do on that in a couple of months before we get the nice weather. We'll do some stuff on it. But yeah, that's Kristina's, that's her baby. That's what's keeping her, you know, tied it over while we get the Cadillac built for her. Anyway, I said I would give you guys a little update on the van. So here it is. This van, I did sell it. I didn't want to wait for the auction, and I got a call from a vanner in Edmonton, and he really wanted it. And I didn't quite get what I think I would have got at auction, but that is totally fine. I know it's the right home, and more on that in a week and a half, maybe a couple of weeks, because we are actually going to have to deliver this as well as pick up another van that he traded. So he gave me cash and another van to take this one home. So Excalibur has a new home, and I promise when you hear the story of the dude that bought it, you will also agree it was the right home for this van. All right, well, that's it for this video. I'm just gonna wrap it up here. I got a little bit more welding to do, but we pretty much got the hammers beat, and I'm super stoked on that. So thank you very much for all the support out there and all the patience. And if you ordered one of these hammers, we are so close. We are so close. It's been a little bit of a struggle, but we are so close. And we'll be getting that out to you. So thanks everybody for watching Make It Kustom. I really appreciate you guys. Like I said before, don't forget to like, click subscribe, hit notifications, and we'll catch you on the next one.